Remember the pandemic? It upended how millions of people went to work, or if they even went to work at offices. But some of the world's biggest companies are now asking and ordering their staff to return back to the office. And of course, many aren't happy about it. Here's Owen Fairclough.
The morning rush hour, not quite as rushed as it was before COVID-19 revolutionized how and where many of us work. But commuter numbers are likely to rise as more companies order staff who've spent years working remotely back into the office, including Amazon, which recently opened its new headquarters just outside Washington, D.C.
Amazon's return to office policy is quickly turning into one of the most contentious, having initially told employees it had no plans to compel them back to the office. The chief executive has now reportedly told employees if they don't spend at least 3 days a week in the office, they effectively don't have a future with the company.
Some employees have protested, but Amazon is no outlier.
Companies are finding that when they do make some of these edicts, there's a lot of ruffling of the feathers.
Stacey Haller, like me, working remotely right now, is the chief career advisor at Resume Builder, which found 90% of companies plan to have employees return to the office by the end of next year. And like Amazon, nearly 1 out of 3 companies will threaten to fire those who refuse. If that sounds draconian, it's good for business. 72% say return to office policies are boosting revenues, even if employees lose out on the cost of travel.
They're asking people to accept a pay cut and a time cut, and we'll see how this all lays out.
Even so, it's unlikely a 5-day week in the office will return entirely, and it's a shift that may be better suited to younger rather than more experienced employees.
They need the experience in the office, find mentors, learn how to function.
And even Amazon has its limits on offices. Having initially planned to spend $5 billion on new real estate in Northern Virginia, Amazon halved that budget and has paused construction indefinitely on the second phase of its new headquarters after laying off some 18,000 staff. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
All right, for more about this controversial topic of people going back to work, Raj Chaduri, he's the Lumry Family Associate Professor of Business at Harvard Business School. Good to see you, Professor. You know, we were told that we were more productive because we could focus and we'd save time on commuting and we'd just be this Skype and Zoom just superstars. And this was the new wave of the world that we were going to move into. And the hell with the 5 days. And now it's all gone upside down. What happened?
So Phil, good to be with you. Thanks for inviting me. So I think the story is more nuanced. So these brands like Amazon draw a lot of attention, but the reality is thousands of companies are moving towards a hybrid reality. And I would caution leaders who are forcing workers to come back every week, because that might not be optimum for every worker or every team. So instead of a top-down mandate, what needs to happen is each team needs to decide what's best, what's the right mix, what is the right frequency to meet, and frankly, where to meet. The office is just one of the locations that teams can meet at.
Right. Okay, so let's just say you and I, Professor, we'll do a startup and we're going to hire 10 people and we've got to work on doing pitch decks and PowerPoints and doing the things startups typically do. And we're going to hire these 8 people. Are we better off having everybody in one place, or are we better off having everybody remote in different parts of the country?
So what's happening, Phil, is why just in different parts of the country? There is a whole generation of startups, and honestly, thousands of startups have adopted this model where they now can hire from anywhere in the world. And what they're doing in terms of bringing people together is they're organizing offsites. So no one wants to go to a downtown office in San Francisco or New York, but people want to go to Hawaii or Florida. And so the startups that I'm studying, they're organizing offsites once every quarter, or if need be, more frequently. And I think that is a model that is really exciting. And frankly, I honestly feel that is going to be the future of work.
Do you think age and sex have something to do with it? I mean, depending on if you've got family, you've got kids, you're young. I know a lot of young people that actually do want to go back to the office because they want the human engagement. But I know others who have perhaps more chaotic home life that prefer to work from home, or you could argue they want to be in the office because of the chaos at home. I mean, it depends who you are and where you are in terms of your family situation, doesn't it?
So Phil, that's correct, but I think 2 points to make. So working from home is just part of what flexibility does. I'm more excited about working from anywhere, choosing the town, city, or state where you can live, because the quality of life is very dependent on where you live. But every worker, I would argue, starting from the CEO to the new intern, needs a mix of working independently and then spending some time together with the team.
So
the argument I will make.
Amazon's 3-day return to work, soon it's going to be 4, and we can all guess soon it'll be 5, but let's just stick with the 3 for now. I mean, in a memo, this is public information, by the way, they said that if you don't want to come to work or you don't come to work the 3 days a week, that it's not going to turn out well for you. I don't think the people who work at Amazon are dum-dums. In fact, I think they're very smart. There must be a reason why they're asking their employees to come back. They don't want to lose good people either. I mean, what's the thinking from the corporate perspective?
So I guess I can't comment on Amazon because I've not studied them. But in many other companies, the thinking is a much more knee-jerk reaction, trying to go back to old habits. And honestly, what leaders around the world need to recognize is there is a better way. And the better way is to let teams decide again what is best for the team. So some teams could decide to show up in the office 1 day or 2 days every week. Some other teams could say, hey, we don't need to be every week, but we can meet 1 week every month. That allows us to live in Connecticut and commute to New York once every month. And there could be a third team saying, let's meet just once a quarter, but meet for 2 weeks together. So I'm much more the team decides rather than these leaders sitting in the top offices mandating something which people don't want.
There is something else that's also controversial as well, and we've seen this with several companies in California where, the cost of the living is expensive there and people get paid higher salaries, and they moved often to another place, a remote place where it's less expensive. And some would argue that they should not get paid the same amount because they're not living in the place that's paying the high salary. And I'm curious what your viewpoint is on should they get paid the same, those who go to the office and those who don't, assuming they do the same job.
So my view in short is that pay should be location independent. And I'll tell you why, Phil. Because economics 101 is we get paid for what's known as our marginal productivity. So, and the reality is that, if you set pay based on location, then for some of your best employees, once they move to a different location and you've cut their pay, they're going to look for alternate employers. So the reality is it's going to be messy if you mandate pay based on location, especially if you are dealing with jobs that are supply constrained, such as machine learning engineers. You can't find enough of them. So why do you want to hurt them by penalizing them on salary because they move to where they want to live?
Well, Raj, Professor, your marginal productivity is fantastic on this topic. Really appreciate talking to you, joining us from the Harvard Business School. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.